Hello and welcome. I am so excited to see you all. My name is Jennifer Bernhardt, and I am a life coach, and I am a faithful member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I work with women um, who are in mixed faith families, and that means that either their husband has left the church or their adult children has left the church. And when when your family might be leaving the church, there's a lot of big emotions for you, especially around fear and anxiety. You might notice this is all you can think about all the time. And that's called rumination, but I like to refer to it as thought tornadoes. And I can help you with those kind of thoughts. I'm here today to answer your questions about mixed faith families. And I sent out an email last week and asked for questions, and I am so excited that I had some responses. And so we're going to talk about 3 questions today. But if you're in the situation and you want more information, I send out a weekly email where I address questions like this every single week. Let me tell you how you can get that. Sorry, let me tell you how you can get on that list. If you go to my website, which is jennybcoaching.com, and Jenny is JENNIEB coaching.com. And if you click on the resources page and then click on the 5 ways to thrive during a loved one's faith crisis, you just type in your email there and you'll get on the email list, and you'll get that really cool flyer that tells you 5 ways that you can thrive during your loved one's faith crisis. So let's get started with the Q&A. Here is the first question. Are you okay if Dad and I still talk about our church experiences around you? So let me describe the principle that you want to follow when you're answering this. And when I go to answer these questions, of course, I've had some experience. I've had experience with clients, but there are some principles that are kind of universal that you want to keep in the back of your mind. So the first principle in regards to this question is you want to do everything in love. And love is a feeling that feels good. Now, it sounds really odd, but sometimes we get confused about what feels like love. And sometimes, especially maybe for some of us moms, love can feel controlling or like we really want them to do something our way. And that is not actually what love feels like. If you want to know what love feels like, this always works for me. Go pick up a baby and snuggle it. And that warm, delicious feeling, that is what love feels like. So if you go back to the principle, do everything in love, let everything you do in love, it's something that will feel good to you. You can rely on that feeling. The second principle that relies to this is create the relationship that you want with that child. You know your child. If your child has left the church and they are hurt and angry and upset when you bring it up, then that might not be a great time to talk about your experiences with the church with them. However, if things are neutral, settled down, they're not upset when you talk, then of course, share your life with them. But remember, you want to do it in love, and you want to remember to keep the relationship that you want to have with that child in your top of your mind. So when you're talking about your experiences, you want to make sure that you're not trying to proselyte them or do anything that would make them feel accurately, even, because sometimes I know that as moms we do this. I'm the mom that sent the Relief Society president to my daughter who was leaving the church. You want to be able to share all the parts of your life that are involved with the church that you love, and you want to do it in a very genuine way so that they know what's going on in your life too. if all of your conversations are centered around the church, and that can happen when you have perhaps one member of the church leave the church and everybody else is active, all of your conversations around the dinner table, all of your conversations during holidays might be centered on church things. And just remember, you want that child to be welcomed into your family in the warm embrace of your family. And so all of you guys have hobbies, things you love, things that you're doing with your life, and there's plenty of things that you've got to talk about than just the church. So just go back to some of those principles that you want to do it in love and create the relationship that you want with your child. So here's the second question that we want to talk about today. The question is, will they turn away from the health habits they've followed their entire life? Specifically, I'm worried about alcohol. Let's look at what principle we want to think of in relationship to this question. And the principle that we want to look at here is one called differentiation. And that means that you are different from your child. They're not an extension of you. You are your own person with your own goals, desires, dreams, and they are separate from you. That means that you stay in your own lane and allow them to stay in their own lane. So the answer to this question is your children may not stay with the things that they've taught you. They may choose something completely different than what you've taught them. And this is a time, especially with adult children. Now, if your children are still young adults, that would mean that they're not living on their own. They might be after high school and, right around the time they graduate from college, where they are still dependent on you and need your guidance and direction. Then that is a time in their life where they still need your adult direction. But once they get older than that, then you have to trust that they're going to do what they think is best with their life. And you have to trust that. And sometimes when you are really afraid that they're going to do something that might hurt them, the only place that you can turn is your source of faith. You can turn and ask for help from Heavenly Father, but what you can't do is try to direct them or tell them they're doing it wrong or insist that you have the right way. Now, there are some instances, of course, where you have a lot of power. And that is, you do not have to be around your child if they're drinking or if they're taking drugs. If it's going to be a family gathering, it could be that if they really want to be able to have a drink at a family gathering, perhaps it needs to be at a restaurant or a neutral place. You don't have to have that in your home. It's not required. So because you have to do what's comfortable for you too. You're not at your child's mercy, but you also do need to remember that they're their own person, and you can trust that they're going to live their life the very best way that they know how to, exactly the same way that we did. Okay, I hope that's helpful. Let me tell you the third and the last question that we're going to talk about today. My husband just told me that he doesn't believe the church. He doesn't believe that the church is true. And he wants to talk to me about all the reasons. What do I do? Okay. So the first thing that you want to do is take a deep breath. And I mean that literally. You want to take a deep breath in and let it out. You want to, your brain has all of a sudden been told something that it thinks is an emergency, and it's in panic mode. And taking a deep breath can give you a chance to pause, let your brain calm down, and give you a chance to think rationally, which is very helpful. And so then the next thing you want to do, this is a time in your life where here is the principle. You need to take care of yourself. You need to be your number one priority. Things will be changing for you. It will be different. You're going to be learning things, talking about things, and it can be a challenging time. But if you will put yourself first, and let me tell you what I mean by that. If you make your emotional health, and by emotional health, I mean your mental health, mental and emotional health, your spiritual health, and your physical health, number one, we're going back to the principle of putting your face mask on in an airplane. If you do not have oxygen and you pass out, then everybody around you will pass out too. It is really important that you're at your very best when you have something unexpected come up like that, and it's going to take everything you have, and you've got to give yourself exactly what you need so that you can continue to be the calming influence that you want to be. I'm assuming you'd like to be a calming influence. That's what I'd like to be, is I want to show up in a situation, in that situation with my very best self. And I can tell you, when that happened to me, I didn't really show up in my very best self. I was afraid. I just was flatly afraid. I was afraid all the time. I was afraid of what was going to happen to my husband, how that would change things with him. I wondered if he would turn into a different person. I was afraid to go places. I was afraid to talk to people. And actually, quite frankly, some of those fears were justified. The very first few people that the people that were closest to me that I talked to about my husband leaving the church, they didn't react very well. And, at that point, I was even more afraid, because I thought things like, boy, all you can do, if you want to make this worse, all you have to do is talk to people. And so for me, everybody's going to find the way that will work best for them. But for me, the person that I ended up talking to, who ended up being the most calming, the best source of comfort for me, was actually my husband. He was afraid too. We were both afraid. We both did not know what was going to happen to us. He was afraid that I would be upset and feel like I needed to leave. I was wondering if he was a monster now, and I just had missed it. And, none of those things actually happened. But to be able to show up as your best self, we want to go back to the principle: you need to be taking care of your own mental and emotional health. And you're going to be the one to best know how to do it. You need to make sure that your body is okay. You need to be sleeping. I wasn't sleeping. I had thoughts. I talked about those thought tornadoes going constantly. I would lay awake at night and just go around and around in those same circles. And so stopping and taking care of yourself, getting your food, your exercise, your sleep, whatever it takes to keep you showing up in the best way that you can. And then here's the thing. It's going to be different for everybody, and it could be quite challenging. But if you have taken care of yourself, you're going to be able to handle it the very best that you can. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that was really helpful to me. I felt scared. I felt alone. I felt really quite misunderstood. I felt like people didn't understand what was going on, which, by the way, they didn't, because how could they possibly? In our case, when my husband told me he had made the decision, he was going to stop attending church. And the initial reaction when he asked to be released from his calling and that kind of thing, people were surprised and very, very shocked, and didn't realize the decision had already been made. They thought it was, that this was maybe an earlier phase than it really was. He had been working on it for a number of years. Anyway, every situation is going to be different, but I can tell you that the best thing that you can do for yourself is to take care of yourself, and then just be ready to go for whatever comes next. Okay, I really hope that was helpful today. I loved getting questions, and I would really encourage you to send me in your questions. I want to answer the things that are on your mind and that will help you. And I will always try to address them with the principle that I think applies in this situation. And then maybe give you a little bit of my own experience and some suggestions. I will see you next week. This is going to be a weekly thing. And I'm not going to tell you what day it's going to be on because it's going to be different every day. Okay, thank you very much, and I'll talk to you later.